We are here today to go ahead and tackle 7.3. We looked at marine invertebrates already in 7.2, so now we're looking at marine fishes, 7.3. Again, we're going to do this in broad terms because there are so many different species and varieties that it would be impossible to cover each one individually. Just a couple of tidbits leading into our information, nothing that you have to write down yet. Marine fish are vertebrates. Some have vertebrae made of cartilage, others have made of bone. About 58% of the 32,000 known species of fishes are marine, meaning they live in the ocean. The other species are going to be freshwater species that live in different lake systems throughout the world. Fish are the largest group of vertebrates in terms of species. So we're talking about like mammals, reptiles, birds, fish. Fish are the largest of those categories, more species than any of those other categories. All right, so we're going to be breaking down fish into three different categories here: jawless, cartilaginous, and then bony. If you want to take a look at that on your own time, you can, but I'm not going to do it here. Jawless fish, here's our first category of fish that we're looking at. Grab a study guide. Yeah, all right. So for our jawless fish, we got lampreys and hagfishes, also known as slime eels. These are two different varieties that both are very muscular. They have a circular mouth and again, kind of a circular row of teeth as well, where they latch on to whatever it is that they're going to eat. Very long cylindrical bodies, and they don't have the same type of fins and scales that we see in other fish. So for the hagfish, nothing that you need to write here. They are ocean only. They are exclusively marine. They feed on dead and dying fish. They burrow into soft sediments. Over 70 different species of these hagfish. Here's a rendering of what one of them might look like. And then we've got our lampreys that live in freshwater and seawater. Adults of some of these will spend a lot of their life at sea, and then they'll come back into freshwater for mating season. They feed on living fish. I'm going to show you an image of that in a second. But they grab onto the side of a living fish with their round mouth and just kind of suck away at the flesh of that fish, and then they'll move on to another one, leaving that fish there still alive, but with a wound. Here's an image of what these guys look like. There's that round mouth and kind of circular row of teeth, and this is the chunk of flesh that they can take out when they latch on to a fish, and they stay there for a little while as they just slowly eat away at the flesh of that fish. There's a more full image of what one looks like here. You get just the head and mouth. Notice the mouth here is kind of on the bottom. Some alien looking stuff here. All right, and we take it to our next category of cartilaginous fish. This is where we're talking about sharks and rays, and then also skates, which often get confused with rays, and ratfishes as well. These are all varieties that have skeleton made of cartilage. So sharks don't have regular bones. They have cartilage that make up their skeletal system. They have movable jaws, and then these are all going to have 5 to 7 gill slits that open directly into the water. A little note there at the bottom, males in this species have claspers that they use to help in the process of reproduction. A couple images here of cartilaginous versus bony. Notice the large pectoral fins and single dorsal fin here, and then another very, very small dorsal fin at the back, as opposed to a lot of bony fish that will have this set up for a dorsal fin, then much smaller pectoral fin. So sharks are primarily marine, but some species, including one of the more dangerous bull sharks, are able to travel up river systems a little bit. Most species have two dorsal fins, an enlarged one and then a much smaller one, and then they have pectoral fins that they use for lift, similar to what we would think of for an airplane. That lift is going to allow them to determine whether they're going up or down. Many are carnivorous, but we do have a few that are filter feeders, including the whale shark, which is the largest of all fish. Sharks have sensory organs. A lot of you have heard this before. If you've watched any episode of Shark Week, they bring it up pretty much every single time, that their sharks are able to detect electrical current, kind of the movements of muscles within the water of other species. So this is going to be used for the detection of prey. This is what makes them such dangerous hunters, is that ability to feel these electrical vibrations and tell where their prey might be. Shark diversity here, lots and lots of different varieties. This is just a small sample of the several hundred varieties of sharks that are out there. Some of the more well-known, you got your basking shark and your whale shark that are more filter feeders. Thresher shark with the big long tail here. Tiger shark, for obvious reason, with the stripes, is one of our larger varieties. Obviously the great white, third largest shark, but the largest truly hunting shark. Bull shark, hammerhead, all kinds of good stuff. Nurse shark, a lot of these down south. I saw quite a few of these in the Keys, and it's kind of funny to watch people get all excited and scared if they see one in the water. You don't have much to be worried about with a nurse shark. Rays have gill slits, a mouth that's located gill slits. That's not accurate. Let's skip that one. Most rays spend much of their time on the bottom. We do want the gill slits are at the top. I do want you to have that. Mouths are typically not. I'm not sure how that got worded that way. But the gills are on the top of the ray. So please get that down. And then large flattened teeth, typically used for crushing mollusks. They eat a lot of mollusks, as well as crabs and other animals that are along the bottom. And then rays give birth to live young. I do want you to have that down, as do sharks. Image there for you to take a peek at. Skates, you don't have to write anything down for this. These are commonly confused for rays. They're very similar to rays. They're flattened with kind of large wing-like pectoral fins, but they have a kind of fleshy tail, not a spiny tail like rays. And then skates are going to lay eggs, unlike rays that give live birth. All right, bony fish. Moving on to our third category here. Bony fish, rather than having a skeleton composed of cartilage like our sharks and rays and skates, now we've got actual bone here. Tail with two lobes of pretty equal size. They have flat bony scales, and then a swim bladder in our bony fish as well. It's going to be used for buoyancy. Over 30,000 species that are known. That includes the freshwater varieties as well. So for body shape, a lot of variety here depending on its habitat, its lifestyle. If you go, if you are fishing off the coast of Alaska, very different from what you're going to find if you're snorkeling through a reef in the Keys. Tuna, billfishes, other fast-moving predators are very streamlined with fins that serve as rudders. Lots of variety here with body shape. We won't get into a whole lot of detail here. And we get into fish anatomy. This is our last box. The intestines of carnivorous fish tend to be shorter and straight for carnivorous fish, but for our herbivorous fish, their intestines are longer and much coiled, much more coiled, similar to kind of how ours are. because plant matter is a little bit more difficult to digest. And so it takes it needs a longer digestive system to be able to filter through and pull out the things that it needs. An image here of what that looks like. See the long cavity here for the intestines. Actually not that long, fairly short and thick for the large animals that it would be eating and needing to process. Where here you have a longer, more coiled intestines, because it's going to be eating plant matter. Still in the fish anatomy box here, getting close to being done. Fish have a 2-chambered heart. We want to make sure that you have that. That's as opposed to the 4-chambered heart that you and I have, as well as other mammals. So fish pull oxygen from the water. Their breathing process is similar to ours, with the exception of the fact that rather than us pulling our oxygen from the air, they're pulling theirs from the water, and then will convert it into carbon dioxide that they will send back out into the water through their gills. Just an interesting little note here, don't have to write it down, but most marine fish pass very little, meaning they don't urinate much, just very, very concentrated urine in order to conserve water. And I think the last one here, fish have brain, spinal cord, and nerves, like other vertebrates. So they're not particularly intelligent for the most part. We're not talking about very large brains here. But they do have some level of intelligence, as well as some nerves. They do have some feeling, some ability to feel pain. Interesting note here too, color vision has evolved in a lot of bony fishes. Image here, this lateral sensory, and oh, one more, sorry, I lied. This is the last one, I promise. So broadcast spawning, you probably have heard of this before for fish. This is where the eggs are released into the water, the sperm is released into the water, and fertilization happens that way, as opposed to any kind of insertion. So there can be some complex mating behaviors and courtships that can be seen in different species, but broadcast spawning is what we're going to see with our bony fish in particular. All right, no test questions beyond this. I'm going to stop talking, but if you are interested, there's some more information in color patterns, locomotion, meaning how they move, feeding, so some more information. If it's something that you are interested in and want to learn a little bit more out, you can open up the slides and keep going. There's some good stuff there, but we're not going to make you write any of that down. Nothing on the test from any of that information. So there you go, 7.3 marine fishes, again, in very broad categories. If there are particular varieties that you're interested in, feel free to do some independent research and learn more about the types of fish that you are interested in, but thousands upon thousands of species out there, so we've got to do it this way in broad terms. Hope you enjoy. Peace.